The Rich Man, the Poor Man, and God's Three Wishes. Once upon a time, there was a kind farmer who allowed God to sleep over, and in return he was granted 3 wishes. From that day on, he lived a comfortable life with a new house. The wealthy man, driven by greed, also asked for 3 wishes, but he was punished by them. Long ago, when God still lived among humans on earth, one evening, as it got dark before he arrived home, he stood in front of 2 houses. One was large and beautiful, while the other was small and ugly. The large, beautiful house belonged to the rich man, while the small, humble house belonged to the poor man. God thought, I must beg the rich man to let me sleep here tonight. When the rich man heard the knock, he opened the window and asked what the stranger needed. God replied, Please let me stay the night. The rich man looked at the traveler from head to toe. Seeing that God was dressed simply and had no money to spare, the rich man shook his head and said, My house is full of supplies, and there is no room for you to sleep. If I let everyone who knocks sleep here, I will end up begging myself. Go find somewhere else to sleep. The rich man closed the window and left the stranger outside. God turned to the other house. As soon as he knocked, the poor man opened the door and invited the traveler in. He said, Stay with us tonight. It is too dark to go anywhere else. God felt relieved and satisfied as he entered. The poor man's wife warmly welcomed the guest and said, Please make yourself at home. Though we are poor, we will offer you what we have. The host then began cooking potatoes, while his wife went to milk the goat so they could have milk to drink. The meal was simple, but everyone ate happily because the hosts were kind and welcoming. After dinner, before going to bed, the wife said to her husband, Let us give the bed to our guest tonight. We will sleep on the straw. He has been traveling all day, so he must be tired. The husband agreed. We should be hospitable like this. Then the husband turned to the guest and said, You may sleep in the bed tonight. We will sleep on the straw. The guest declined, insisting he was fine with the straw. The couple would not agree, and in the end, the guests slept in the bed as they had wished, and the hosts slept on the straw. The next morning, the host made a delicious breakfast for their guest. The guest woke up as the sunlight shone through the window. They all sat down to eat together. After the meal, the guest prepared to leave. As he reached the door, the guest turned and said, You are so kind. I will grant you 3 wishes. The host replied, I wish for peace throughout my life, meaning enough food each day and good health. I am not sure what to wish for with the 3rd one. The guest said, Would you like a new house to replace this humble hut? The host replied, Oh, a new house would be wonderful. God blessed the poor couple, and when they saw their new house, he departed. The next morning, the rich man, waking up and looking out the window, saw a grand new house where the poor hut had been. He opened his eyes wide and called his wife over, saying, This is strange. Yesterday there was a hut, and now there is a beautiful house. We should go ask them how this happened. The rich man's wife went to ask the poor couple how this had come about. The husband explained, Last night, a traveler came to ask if he could sleep here. This morning he granted us 3 wishes, peace, enough food every day, and good health. He also gave us this beautiful new house to replace our old hut. The rich man's wife hurried back to her husband and told him the story. The rich man said, I deserve to be punished. If I had known, I would have let him stay. His wife advised, Hurry up and ride to catch up with him. Maybe you can still ask for 3 wishes. The rich man quickly mounted his horse and chased after the traveler. He found the traveler and said in a sweet voice, I am sorry I did not let you stay last night. Please sleep at my house when you return. The traveler agreed. When I return, I will sleep at your house. The rich man then asked if he could have the 3 wishes like the poor couple. The traveler said he would indeed receive them, but it was best not to wish for anything at all. The rich man thought to himself that he should wish for wealth. At that moment the traveler said, Go home now, and your wishes will come true. The rich man, now with his 3 wishes, rode back home. As he rode, he thought about what to wish for, but his horse kept jumping because the reins were loose. Frustrated, the rich man slapped the horse and said, Liaise, behave. As soon as he said that, the horse jumped again, and the rich man angrily blurted out, I wish you would break your neck. Immediately, the horse fell to the ground and died. The first wish had been granted. The rich man, greedy as always, cut the saddle off the horse, and strapped it to his back. Walking, he comforted himself. I still have 2 wishes left. Under the hot sun, he trudged through the hot sand, burdened by the saddle. He thought to himself, I wish I had so much treasure that I could decorate my house as I wanted. Then he thought, if I were a farmer in Bavaria with 3 wishes, I would wish for endless beer to quench my thirst, one barrel after another. Suddenly he thought of his wife, sitting at home eating alone while he was out in the heat. He absent-mindedly muttered, I wish you were sitting on the saddle too, so I could avoid carrying it on my back. As soon as he said that, the saddle disappeared, and he realized that his second wish had come true. He continued walking in the scorching heat, now only wishing to get home so he could think of his third wish. Upon arriving home, he opened the door and saw his wife stuck to the saddle, complaining bitterly. He said, Don't worry, I will wish for us to be rich beyond measure. His wife, frustrated, scolded him, saying, Wealth won't help when I am stuck like this on this saddle. You wished for this, now you have to figure out how to get me off it. With no choice left, the rich man made his third wish. As soon as he spoke the words, his wife was freed from the saddle. And so, the 3 wishes were completed. But nothing good came of it, just frustration, exhaustion, and a dead horse. Meanwhile, the poor man lived a peaceful, prosperous life until the end of his days. The demon and the 3 soldiers. Once upon a time, a demon promised to help 3 soldiers with the condition that, if they could not solve his riddle after 7 years, they would have to follow him. After 7 years, thanks to the sincerity of the 3rd soldier, the demon's grandmother helped him solve the riddle. At that time, war was rampant, and the king recruited many soldiers. There was not enough food, and the soldiers lived in misery. 3 soldiers decided to run away from camp. One of them said, If we are caught, we will certainly die by hanging. We need to think carefully. Another one said, Ahead of us is a vast rice field. If we hide there, no one will find us. The army will march tomorrow, and no one will think of us. So the 3 of them hid in the rice field. However, the army did not march the next day, but stayed near the field. The 3 soldiers were forced to lie on the ground, starving, and feeling as though they were about to die of hunger. Staying there meant death, and leaving the field meant certain death too. They said to each other, Escaping is useless. Now we are just waiting for death. At that moment, a red and gold dragon flew over. It descended and asked why the 3 were lying in the rice field. They replied, We are soldiers, and we ran away because the wages were too low. Now we will die here from hunger, because if we leave, we will surely be hanged. The dragon said, If you agree to work for me for 7 years, I will lead you out of this area without anyone noticing. They all agreed. We agree, as there is no other way to choose. The dragon then lifted them and flew high into the air. When they reached a remote area, it dropped them onto the ground. The dragon revealed itself to be a demon in disguise. It handed them whips and said, Just whip the air, and you will have as much money as you desire. You will live like wealthy lords, riding in carriages and wearing fine clothes. But after 7 years, you will belong to me. It then presented a book for them to sign the contract. It added, If you solve the riddle I give you, you will be free from me. After that, the dragon flew away. The 3 soldiers, with whips in hand, continued to travel. They lived a luxurious life, wearing clothes like rich lords, eating whatever they wished. Their lives were filled with happiness, and they never thought of doing anything evil. 7 years passed quickly. 2 of the soldiers were worried about their fate, but the 3rd soldier was calm. He said, Don't worry, I will solve the riddle. I am not that bad. The 3 of them went to a field and sat there. The 2 others looked sad. At that moment, an old woman came by and asked why they were so upset. They replied, This has nothing to do with you. You probably can't help us with this. The old woman said, Are you sure? Tell me your sorrow, and I may be able to help. They explained that they would be servants to the demon if they could not solve his riddle, as he had provided them with money and luxury for 7 years. They had signed the contract with him. The old woman listened, and then said, This too shall pass. One of you should go to the forest. You will find a mountain with a house perched precariously on its slope. Once inside, you will learn everything needed to solve the riddle. The 2 soldiers doubted this would help, and sat there waiting. The third soldier, determined, stood up and set off. He ventured deep into the forest and continued until he found the house on the mountain slope. Inside, there was a very old woman, the grandmother of the demon. She asked him where he came from and what he was doing there. He told her everything. Moved by his kindness, she decided to help him. She lifted a stone covering a hidden chamber and said, "Hide in here, and you can hear everything that is said. Be still and do not move. When the demon returns, I will ask him, and he will tell me everything, leaving nothing out. Listen carefully, and remember everything he says." In the dead of night, the demon flew back, hungry. The old woman prepared food and placed it on the table. They sat down to eat. The old woman asked if he had been successful, how many people he had captured. The demon replied, "Today I was not very lucky. I caught 3 soldiers, but that is certain." The old woman chimed in, "3 soldiers, EH. But they seem to have escaped your grasp, do not they?" The demon laughed arrogantly. "They are in my hands now. I gave them a riddle they will never solve." The old woman asked, "What riddle?" "I will tell you. In the Baltic Sea, there is a dead sea cat, which is the roast meat for them. The ribs of a shark are their silver spoons, and the cup for their wine is the leg of an old horse." When the demon went to bed, the old woman opened the stone and let the soldier sneak out. She asked, "Did you remember everything he said?" The soldier replied, "Yes, I remember everything." He sneaked through the window and hurried back to the other 2 soldiers. He told them how the demon's grandmother had tricked him into revealing the riddle. The 3 soldiers were overjoyed and excited, and they whipped their whips, making money spill out across the ground. Time passed, and the 7 years were up. The demon brought the contract book with their signatures and said, "I will take you to hell, where you will enjoy a grand meal. If you solve the riddle, you will be free, and you can keep the whip. The first question, what meat will you eat?" The first soldier answered, "In the Baltic Sea there is a dead sea cat, which is the roast meat for us." The demon scowled. It then asked the second soldier, "What is your spoon?" "The shark's ribs are our silver spoons." The demon scowled again. Finally, the demon asked the third soldier, "Do you know what your wine cup is?" "The leg of an old horse is our wine cup." The demon howled and flew away, defeated. The 3 soldiers kept their whips and continued to live a life of wealth, getting as much money as they wanted. They lived happily ever after. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a wealthy man whose wife was gravely ill. When she felt that her end was near, she called her only daughter to her bedside and said, "My dear child, you must be diligent and virtuous. I will always be with you, watching over you." With those words, she closed her eyes and passed away. Every day the little girl would go to her mother's grave and sit, crying. She was hard-working, virtuous, and beloved by everyone. When winter came, the snow covered her mother's grave, resembling a white shawl. And as the spring sunshine melted the snowy shawl, the father remarried. The stepmother came with her 2 daughters. These girls, though fair and charming, had dark, wicked hearts. From that day on, the orphan girl lived a life of misery. The stepmother and her 2 daughters conspired together and said, "We can't let that silly girl sit idle in the house forever. If she wants to eat, she must work for it. Go to the kitchen now." They stripped her of her fine clothes, dressed her in a shabby gray cloak, and gave her wooden clogs. "Look at this princess, transformed." The 3 of them mocked her and led her to the kitchen. She had to work from morning until night, waking up at the crack of dawn to fetch water, light the fire, cook, and do laundry. That was not enough. The 2 stepdaughters came up with cruel ways to torment her, like mixing peas with lentils in the ash and forcing her to separate them. By nightfall, after a long day of exhausting labor, she was not allowed to sleep in a bed, but had to lie on the ash pile next to the stove. And because she was always around ash, she became dirty and covered in soot, so they called her Cinderella. One day, when going to the market, the father asked his stepdaughters what they wanted as a gift. The first one said, "Beautiful clothes." The second said, "Pearls and jewels." The father then asked, "And what about you, Cinderella? What would you like?" "Father, on your way back, if a branch from a tree hits your hat, please bring it back for me." The father bought the beautiful clothes, pearls, and jewels for the stepdaughters. On his way back, as he was riding his horse, a branch from a hazel tree brushed against him and knocked off his hat. He picked it and brought it home. When he arrived, he gave the gifts to his stepdaughters and handed Cinderella the hazel branch. Cinderella thanked him, then went to her mother's grave, planted the branch by the grave, and cried bitterly. Her tears watered the new tree, and soon it grew tall and strong. Every day, Cinderella visited her mother's grave 3 times, sitting and crying, making wishes. Each time a white bird would fly down to the tree and, upon her request, would drop the things she desired. One day, the king announced a 3-day ball, inviting all the beautiful girls in the land for the prince to choose his bride. The stepdaughters were thrilled when they found out they were invited, and they called Cinderella to them. "Quick, comb our hair, polish our shoes, and tie them tight so we can go to the ball at the palace." Cinderella did all these tasks, but then sat and cried because she too wanted to dance. She begged her stepmother to let her go. The stepmother said, "You, Cinderella, covered in dirt and dust, want to go to the ball. You do not even have shoes or nice clothes to wear." Cinderella pleaded, and the stepmother said, "I have mixed a pile of lentils with ash. If you can separate them in 2 hours, then you may go." Cinderella went out the back door to the garden and called, "O kind pigeons, O doves, all the birds in the sky, come and help me. Good beans, put them in the pot. Bad beans, put them in the air, O birds." Immediately, a pair of white doves flew through the kitchen window, followed by other birds that gathered around the ash pile. The pigeons cooed and quickly pecked away, separating the good beans into the pot. In less than an hour, the birds had done the work. They flew off when finished. Cinderella took the beans to her stepmother, hopeful that she would finally be allowed to attend the ball, but the stepmother said, "You are not going anywhere. What would you wear to the ball? People would mock you." When Cinderella started crying, the stepmother said, "If you can separate 2 piles of lentils from the ash in 1 hour, then I will let you go." The stepmother thought, "There is no way she will finish in time." After mixing the lentils with the ash, Cinderella went out to the garden and again called, "O kind pigeons, O doves, all the birds in the sky, come and help me. Good beans, put them in the pot. Bad beans, put them in the air, O birds." Once again, a flock of white doves, followed by other birds, flew down and quickly separated the lentils. Within less than half an hour, the work was done, and the birds flew off. Cinderella took the beans to her stepmother, sure that this time she would be allowed to go. But the stepmother replied, "That is useless. You can't go to the ball. What would you wear? It would be embarrassing for us." The stepmother and her daughters left, and when they were gone, Cinderella went to her mother's grave and stood under the hazel tree, calling, "Tree, shake your branches. Drop down silver and gold clothes for me." The birds dropped a beautiful gown with gold and silver embroidery and a pair of silk slippers with silver threads. Cinderella quickly dressed and went to the ball. Her stepmother and stepsisters did not recognize her. They thought she was a princess from a distant land because she looked so beautiful in her golden gown. They had no idea it was Cinderella, thinking she was at home, still picking lentils from the ashes. The prince came over to her, took her hand, and they danced. He did not want to dance with anyone else and refused to let go of her hand. When others invited her to dance, he said, "She is my dancer." At the end of the evening, Cinderella wanted to go home, and the prince offered to accompany her. He wanted to know who this beautiful girl was. As they neared her house, Cinderella quickly pulled her hand away from the prince and jumped into a pigeon coop. The prince waited, and when the father arrived, he told him about the girl who had jumped into the pigeon coop. The father wondered, could it be Cinderella? He took an axe and tried to cut open the coop, but no one was inside. When they returned home, they found Cinderella lying on the ash pile, covered in soot, with a lamp burning dimly by the stove. Cinderella had quickly jumped out of the pigeon coop, gone to the hazel tree, undressed, and left the fine clothes there for the birds. She then put on her gray cloak and lay back in the kitchen as usual. The next day the ball was held again. When the family and the stepsisters left, Cinderella went to the hazel tree and called, "Tree, shake your branches. Drop down silver and gold clothes for me." The birds dropped down an even more magnificent gown than the last time. Cinderella wore it and went to the ball. She dazzled everyone with her beauty. The prince had waited for her, and once again he danced only with her. When others invited her to dance, he said, "She is my dancer." At the end of the evening, Cinderella wanted to leave. The prince followed her, but she quickly escaped and hid in a pear tree in the garden. The prince waited until the father arrived, then said, "The strange girl must have run up the pear tree." The father wondered, could it be Cinderella? He brought an axe to chop down the tree, but there was no one there. When they entered the kitchen, they found Cinderella lying on the ash pile as usual. She had jumped from the pear tree, returned her fine clothes to the birds at the hazel tree, and put her gray cloak back on. On the third day, when the family left, Cinderella went to her mother's grave and called, "Tree, shake your branches. Drop down silver and gold clothes for me." The birds dropped a stunning gown and a pair of golden slippers. With the new outfit, Cinderella went to the ball, and everyone was amazed by her beauty. The prince danced only with her again. When others invited her to dance, he said, "She is my dancer." When it was time for her to leave, the prince tried to follow her, but she quickly escaped. The prince had an idea and poured pitch on the stairs. When Cinderella climbed the stairs, her left slipper got stuck. He picked it up and saw that it was a small, beautiful, golden slipper. The next day, the prince brought the slipper to the father and said, "I will marry the one whose foot fits this slipper." The two stepsisters were thrilled because both had beautiful feet. The elder tried the shoe in front of their mother, but her big toe could not fit because the slipper was too small. The mother handed her a knife and said, "Just cut off your big toe. Once you are queen, you won't need to walk." The girl cut off her toe, squeezed her foot into the slipper, and went to the prince. He accepted her as his bride and lifted her onto his horse. As they rode past the grave, a pair of doves perched on the hazel tree and sang, "Quack, quack." The blood on the slipper, the foot too big, the real bride. Still at home, the prince glanced at her foot and saw blood still trickling out. He turned the horse around, took her back, and told her parents, "This is not the true bride." He then gave the slipper to the younger stepsister. She tried it on, and, to her surprise, her foot fit perfectly, except for her wide heel. The mother handed her a knife and said, "Just cut off part of your heel. Once you are queen, you won't have to walk." She cut her heel, squeezed her foot into the slipper, and went to meet the prince. He accepted her as his bride and lifted her onto his horse. As they passed the grave, the doves sang, "Quack, quack." The blood on the slipper, the foot too big, the real bride. Still at home, the prince glanced at her foot and saw blood still trickling out. He turned the horse around and returned her to her parents. "This is also not the true bride. Does your family have any other daughters?" The father answered, "No, your highness. My late wife left a daughter, but she is pale and covered in soot. She could never be a bride." The prince insisted that Cinderella be called. The stepmother protested, "Your highness, you cannot. She is filthy, and it is unworthy for her to meet the prince." The prince insisted, so Cinderella washed her face and hands, came out, and bowed to him. The prince handed her the golden slipper. She sat on a stool, took off her heavy wooden clog, and slipped her foot into the golden slipper. It fit perfectly. When she stood up, the prince immediately recognized her as the beautiful girl he had danced with, and exclaimed, "This is the true bride." The stepmother and the two daughters were horrified and furious. The prince lifted Cinderella onto his horse, and as they rode past the hazel tree, the doves sang, "Quack, quack." The slipper is clean. The foot fits perfectly. The true bride is going home. After singing, the doves flew down and perched on Cinderella's shoulders, one on the left and one on the right. At the wedding, the stepsisters came to flatter Cinderella, hoping for riches. When the procession arrived, the older sister walked to the right, and the younger one walked to the left. The doves pecked out one of each sister's eyes. On the way back, the older sister walked to the left, and the younger sister walked to the right. The doves pecked out their other eyes. The two sisters were blinded for the rest of their lives, as punishment for their cruelty and deceit. The smart girl. Once upon a time, there were two brothers, one rich and one poor. The poor brother had nothing, not even a bowl to eat from, a ladle to scoop soup, or a cup to drink from. One day, the rich brother suddenly visited the poor brother's house and gave him a cow, saying, "If you work for me, this cow will be yours." So the poor brother worked for his rich sibling. After some time, the rich brother demanded the cow back. "Give me the cow." The poor brother refused. "Brother, I worked for you because of this cow. What have you done for me?" "It is nothing worth mentioning. Look at this cow. Give it back to me. Give it back." The poor brother thought, "I can't just lose my hard work. No matter what, I won't give up the cow." So they went to an old man to settle the matter. However, the old man did not know how to resolve it either. Eventually, the old man said to the brothers, "Whoever answers my riddle correctly will get the cow. Please, tell us your riddle, sir. Listen carefully. What is the fattest, the fastest, and the most lovable thing in the world? Come back tomorrow with your answers." The brothers returned home. On their way back, the rich brother thought, "This is nonsense. Let me guess what this old man is talking about. What could be fatter than the pig? What could be faster than the hunting dog? What could be more lovable than money? The cow is mine." The poor brother thought about the riddle for a long time, but could not figure it out. He had a daughter named Masa, and seeing her father deep in thought, she asked, "Father, why are you so sad? What did the old man say?" "He gave me riddles that are so confusing and hard to solve." "What riddle, father?" He asked, "What is the fattest, the fastest, and the most lovable thing in the world?" "Oh, father, those are easy. Don't worry. Just say what I tell you." The next day, the two brothers went back to the old man. He asked, "Well, have you figured it out?" "Yes, we have, sir." The rich brother rushed forward and gave his answer. "Sir, the fattest thing is your pig, the fastest is your hunting dog, and the most lovable is money." "Oh, no, you are wrong," the old man cried. "Your answers are not correct." At that moment, the poor brother spoke up. "Sir, the fattest thing in the world is Mother Earth, who nourishes all living creatures and provides food for humans." Yes, the old man said. "And what is the fastest?" "The fastest is the human thought. It can travel with the wind to anywhere in the world." "That is right. And what is the most lovable?" "The most lovable is sound sleep. Once someone is in a deep sleep, they forget everything." "Perfect," the old man said. "The cow is now yours. But you must tell me, did you figure this out yourself, or did someone help you?" "Sir," the poor brother said, "I have a daughter named Masa, and it was she who told me the answers." "Is that so? I am so wise, and yet she, an ordinary girl, was able to solve my riddle." The old man thought for a moment and decided to test the girl's intelligence. He said to the poor brother, "Here are 10 cooked eggs. Take them to your daughter and tell her to have a hen hatch them into chicks. Then she must raise them, kill 3 of them, and bring me the cooked chickens for breakfast tomorrow morning before I sleep. I will wait. If she cannot do it, you and your daughter will be in trouble." The poor brother returned home, feeling regretful for having asked the old man for help. Thinking of the task ahead, he began to cry. His daughter saw him and asked, "Father, why are you crying? Did I get the answers wrong?" "No, it is not that. We are in trouble now, my child. The old man gave you 10 cooked eggs and asked you to have a hen hatch them into chicks. After one night, the chicks must be raised, and 3 of them must be cooked and brought to him for breakfast." The girl thought for a moment, then brought a pot of porridge and said, "Father, take this pot of porridge to the old man and tell him to dig a hole and plant the pot in the ground. When the rice grows and ripens, it should be harvested, pounded into rice, and then brought to the chicks hatched from the cooked eggs." The poor brother took the pot of porridge to the old man and conveyed his daughter's words. The old man looked at the pot of porridge, then gave it to his dog to eat. After that he found a root of a thorn bush and gave it to the poor brother, saying, "Take this thorn root to your daughter. Tell her to soak it. Dry it in the sun, break it up, and weave 100 pieces of cloth. If she cannot do this, her answer will not be accepted." The poor brother returned home and began to cry again. His daughter asked, "What is it, father?" "Look at this. The old man gave you a thorn root and asked you to soak it, dry it, break it, and weave 100 pieces of cloth." Masa thought for a moment, then took a small branch and said, "Father, take this branch to the old man and ask him to make a loom for weaving the thorn root." The poor brother took the branch to the old man and repeated his daughter's words. The old man looked at the branch and then threw it aside, thinking to himself, "This girl is truly clever." The old man wanted to meet her, but he told the poor brother, "Go back and tell your daughter that she should visit me tomorrow morning. But she must not walk, ride a horse, go barefoot, or wear shoes. She should bring no gifts, but cannot come empty-handed either. If she does not come, I am sure you know what will happen." The poor brother returned home, feeling sad. He repeated the old man's words to his daughter. After thinking for a while, Masa said to her father, "Don't worry, everything will be fine. Please bring me a live rabbit." The poor brother went out and brought back a live rabbit. The next morning, Masa put one foot in an old shoe and left the other foot barefoot. She took a sparrow, tied a sled to a goat, and tucked the rabbit under her arm, holding the sparrow in her hand. One foot was on the ground, and the other was on the sled. The goat walked for her. She made her way to the old man's house. From a distance, the old man saw the girl and called his servant, "Release the 2 hunting dogs." The 2 hunting dogs ran towards the girl. She quickly released the rabbit, and the dogs, seeing the rabbit, ran after it. The girl reached the old man's house, bowed respectfully, and said, "Sir, here is my gift for you." She handed the sparrow to the old man. As soon as the old man reached for it, the girl let go, and the sparrow flew out of the window. At that moment, 2 farmers arrived, each claiming a horse foal. The old man asked them, "What is going on, gentlemen?" One said, "This is what happened, sir. The 2 of us slept outside, and in the morning I found that my mare had given birth to a foal." The other said, "That is not true. It is my mare that gave birth. Please judge fairly." Remembering the girl, the old man asked her to settle the matter. She listened to the 2 farmers and quickly thought of a solution. She said, "Tie the foal up, take the mare off the cart, and release the mare. The mare that runs to her foal is the one who gave birth to it." The old man followed her advice, and the mare ran to her foal, while the others stood still. Impressed by the girl's wisdom, the old man was very respectful and entertained the family well. When they left, he rewarded them generously.